Good morning, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you this morning? I'm Reverend Tracy Earlywine and delighted to welcome you to our community, our online service this morning, where we come together to remember the magnificence of who we are. Please know that if you're joining us for the first time, you are welcome here with us, wherever you are on your spiritual path. For what I know is that we come together to remember this greater truth of life, that we are more than the circumstances of our everyday, and that each of us, each of you, truly is blossoming into that wonderfulness that you are meant to be, and we are happy to be a part of that. One of the ways that you can get support from Claremont Center is through our practitioners. They do prayer work with individuals and also for the community as a whole. You can reach out to them by phone or email. You can call the office or check our website for direct contact information. But know that wherever or whatever you are dealing with, we want to be able to support you in prayer, and it is a wonderful way for you to know that greater truth along with us when you can't know it just for yourself. So do take advantage of that. This morning, our practitioner who will be doing our opening prayer and reading is Pat Richards. We are borrowing her from Harmony Center in Whittier, and she is going to be getting us started on our service this morning. And in order to begin, I want to start off by asking you to just take a deep breath. Let's go to that quiet place within and become centered. I invite you to let the sound of the bowl take you into your heart space. And in that place of the heart, take a moment and remember that you and I and Spirit are one.
And right here, right now, in this amazing God-filled space, we know that God is. And God is in the breeze this morning that surrounds us all, that lifts us up. And what I know for this amazing community that is all about love, because love is our truth, and all about peace, because peace is our truth, and all about kindness and support and love and light and generosity. That is our truth. That will forever be our truth. And that is the truth that we step into right now. Hearts wide open, hearts filled with love and joy. Breathe into that peace. Breathe into that amazing sense of oneness. And I'm so blessed and thankful to be a part of this amazing community. So blessed to be of service, blessed to be a part of this, and to be here this morning to support Reverend Tracy. So with all this goodness and all this love, I'm so thankful. And join me in saying, and so it is.
So it is.
So my reading today is from Science of Mind magazine, June 2019. It's called One Love, Seeing Others Through a Compassionate Heart. What helps human suffering? Diane Einstein sought to answer this question by interviewing over 40 people on what helped them emerge from the suffering after the loss of someone they love. She says, I listened to all people of all ages, races, and different economic backgrounds. What each person shared was the heartfelt loss of a loved one. As we heal our own hearts from sorrow, we are better able to connect with the heart of every person who ever has tragically lost someone they love. I listened to these vulnerable stories of loss without judgment or any attempt to fix someone's grief. My intention was just to listen, nothing more. When we listen, we hear ways to heal our collective sorrows. We hear what really matters in life, and we learn how to better care for one another. Even within the unique backdrops of our personal narrative, how we were raised, where we grew up, what beliefs we follow, and what unique challenges we face because of age, race, gender, or sexual orientation, the death of people we dearly love is all nationalities and all politics. When confronting deep sorrow, the place of authentic connection between us comes from the heart. By listening to others with an open heart, we develop a profound understanding of our fellow human beings that goes beyond our differences. With understanding, we gain greater compassion for people's suffering. Compassion is a unifying touchstone, for it is all compassion that dwells in the heart that nurtures our capacity for unconditional love, that same abundant love that God holds for each and every person. What helps human suffering? Love.
So I want to begin today by acknowledging that last week's talk was recorded prior to the events of George Floyd's death. And so this week we were going to be addressing the struggle and the pain of the process that we find ourselves in, and speaking directly about how love heals and how we move forward from here. Hearts are breaking, and they're breaking open. There's a universal cry going out of no more, stop, enough, enough. And it is from that place of awakening that people are expressing on a whole different level their own fears and angers and heartbreak and pain. And it's something that we all find ourselves touched by to one degree or another. And what is it that we teach that allows us to be part of the resolution of this process of healing? What is it that we must do, finding ourselves in this place right now with the way things are, without bypassing, without ignoring, without, sometimes religious scientists are accused of being overly positive. Everything is perfect. That's not what we teach. What we teach is that the human condition is the human condition, and that there is a part of us, the source of us, that is a perfection. And what we learn how to do in this life is to express that inner love and peace and justice and warmth and caring and compassion and kindness. We learn how to express that in ever greater ways. And what we teach are the practices that allow us to do just that. And so we find ourselves at this human turning point once again, that the intensity of sorrow and anger is very, very visible. And when this has happened in the past, the truth is we have shifted. Our lives and our culture have made a turn, and that's what we're in the midst of right now. Most of my childhood and teen years I spent in the 60s and 70s. And so I grew up with feminism and civil rights and anti-war protests, with Earth Day and gay pride and peace, love, and rock and roll, right? The age of Aquarius, going to change the world. And while it moved us forward, I'm sure you've noticed we're not there yet. That what we really find ourselves in is this process of evolution. And the characteristic of evolution is that it's constantly evolving. We are constantly in process. And we find ourselves once again in the midst of evolution. And in the words of Jeff Kober, which were the opening summary of this talk, he says, whatever's happening, no matter how painful, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how frightening, is progressive change. Where we will find ourselves somewhere on the other side of all this, we'll be spiritually more whole than where we find ourselves today. And that truly is the impetus for all change. It is the soul's calling to become more of itself, to live in that place of connection, of oneness, of recognition that you and I and Spirit are one, not only in theory, not only on Sunday morning, but in our everyday interactions. But that is where the power of life is. It lives within the hearts of all of us. The situations today, the sorrow, the hopelessness, the fear, the grief, these are generational issues rising to the surface, being expressed because they have to be, because life must transform and grow. And all of these things show up often as anger, because anger comes when boundaries are broken and needs are not being met. And there is an entire subculture in America and around the world whose boundaries have consistently been broken and needs have not been met. And that is truly what we're looking at today. What we're called to do is to act, to move, to know something better and make it happen. You see, our emotions are what put us in motion. What we feel moves us along. The thing is, a lot of times what we feel is fear. And our human response is to move to fight or flight. But we are students of the science of mind. We are metaphysical, spiritual seekers. And so we are called not to respond from fear, but to respond from love. Because you see, rage is a limited fuel. Yes, it will move things. It will move us. But the fuel of rage is finite. It burns out. And it only knows how to tear down. When your heart breaks open into love, that fuel is infinite. That fuel is creative. That fuel moves us into something greater because that is the very nature of life. Like Buddha's candle, it can light 1,000 more without losing one little bit of its own light. So how it is that we move from fear to love, from anger and sorrow and helplessness into a place of power and movement and creativity and resolution is through our faith. There's an Aretha Franklin song called "I Knew You Were Waiting for Me." And the lyrics in part read, "When the river was deep, I didn't falter. When the mountain was high, I still believed. When the valley was low, it didn't stop me. I knew. I found my way out of the darkness, and I kept my faith." And what is this faith? It's faith in the power of love to heal. And what does that look like right now, even in this? Even when all of us are called to awaken to a greater love. And why should we? Right? Jeff Kober writes again about anger. "Why should I go out of my way to try to love when hurt and hate and anger and frustration may be all that I feel? Because to love when everything in you says no is the point of it all. Loving someone who looks like me, sounds like me, smells like me, aches like me is the easy bit. It's how we learn what love feels like. Loving someone from whom I feel wholly other, completely separate, that builds a muscle. That is the work of a spiritual warrior. That is our work. That is the way forward. And we can do it. We are strong. We do have faith. Mr. Floyd's aunt, Angela Harrison, was quoted saying, "What happened to George changed people's hearts." And that is a motivating force that cannot be denied. And so we choose to meet the grief and the anger, the sorrow, the hopelessness with compassion, with patience, with kindness, with respect. And when we do that, rather than fighting back or running away, when we come together with respect and kindness, we create a foundation, a platform from which we can seek justice, where peace can abide, where we can become more than the circumstances are right now. In a statement calling for the end of racism in the United States, Centers for Spiritual Living put out a letter, and they're talking about creating a community with a climate of safety. And so it says, we join our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, who, echoing the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, "You and I should form the habit of taking definite time each day to contemplate and affirm peace and justice. For there is no peace possible without justice. But faith without works is dead. We should not only pray, we should act, each contributing the best they have to the common purpose. For there can be no individual self-preservation without the preservation of all." How do we do that? What does this look like? To pray and to act. I offer you these steps. The first is to breathe, to center yourself, capital S, to center in that place within you that is of the Spirit. That place that knows the oneness of all. The place that truly knows that no matter what things or what each other looks like or does that is different or the same or strange or weird or wonderful, whatever we label it, beyond the labels, there is a place in us that knows the life I live is the life that you live, is the life of all. And so we breathe into that place of oneness within. The next step is to listen. Not with judgment or to fix things, as Pat had in the reading, but to simply bear witness, to listen for understanding, not in order to learn something or change something or have a new opinion, not to do anything except be present to the story of another, to the experience of another. So not listening to me, listening to the people of color in your own life, listening to the stories of oppression that maybe you did not personally experience, but people do experience. To simply be present, be aware, show up, and listen. The next step is to ask, what is mine to do with what I know now? This is where we look within to our own healing to understand that there is some action we can take that will bring us closer to a solution or a resolution or simply the next step on the path for whatever new opportunity may show up. What is mine to do? That might be to donate to an organization that promotes racial justice. It might be to educate myself better about my own biases that I don't otherwise recognize. It might mean that I spend more time doing my spiritual work. It might mean that I spend more time resting. For the last step is to rest, to meditate, to promote prayers of peace, to spend time in nature, to sleep. You know, for the last several months, all of our nervous systems have been activated. We are all running on an extreme form of energy, coping and managing these changing situations in our world. We need the rest. And then, lastly, to repeat. Breathe. Listen. Ask. Rest. We serve others best when we seek to understand with humility, by being respectful, by remembering that my perception is only one point of perception among an infinite number of points. If I wish to understand, I must have an open heart to hear, to see, to be present to the perceptions of others, the experience of others, the way in which life appears to them, so that I might move forward consciously in a way that is helpful, in a way that is part of the solution, and not unwittingly part of the problem. We heal when we realize love, when we realize, make it real in our expression, in our thinking, in our actions, in all that we do, that love is what is visible. Emmett Fox, metaphysical writer, he says, "It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all." Even in love, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to use the wrong words. I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to ask a question that is just totally oblivious, not intentionally, but I will make mistakes. You know, I hate making mistakes, especially when it comes to people. But I'm committed to this path. I will not stop acting and asking and listening because I might make a mistake. Instead, I'll act anyway, and I'll just make sure that I'm doing it from love, that love is leading me, that love brings me to a place of patience even with myself, that love brings me into an expression of compassion, that love allows me to persist, because love cannot be denied. It is a power when in motion that simply makes clear the way. And so I am committed to this path of love and understanding, of listening and asking and education and teaching and all things which build community with my people of color in my life, with the people of color in our community, and any place where I unknowingly contribute to racism. I know I can do better. I know you can do better. We can all do better, because the nature of evolution is to consistently transform into something that is higher, better, more expansive. That is the path that we are on. So let our hearts be broken. Let them be broken open. Let us be finished with hatred and separation and lives of privilege built on the suffering of others. Let us each find our own way to step forward into a common good. We can do no less. Namaste. I invite you to join me in a moment of prayer. Taking again that deep breath into the heart center. Finding that divine spark within my own being. That place of light and love where spirit is, where I am, where life shines through. I know that this life is a life of peace and order, of balance and wisdom. It is a creative force of expression, moving through and as me, as each one of us. This life of wisdom, this mind is available to all. This heart of love is the heart that beats within each of us. This being of spirit finds new and greater ways to express through and as each of us, as love, as healing, revealing the wholeness that we are. And so I speak a word of healing for myself, for my community, for my country, for my planet. Remembering and calling forth that all things work together for good. Knowing that these events which turn our world on its head, whether it's a pandemic or a killing, a natural disaster, or simply a broken heart, I know that through and as each one of these things, love is. And my faith allows me to stand firmly in and as love. I trust that I will move from love and that I will meet love in everyone. I speak my word for the work to be done, that it be done with a sense of hopefulness, with a degree of certainty that we are moving forward, that justice will prevail, that love is the healing force and is active now. And in this activity of love, I am grateful. Grateful for an opportunity to be of service. Grateful for the power that is available to each of us to move humanity forward. Grateful for the healing taking place even now, seen and unseen, and for the faith that allows me to see it as such. I speak a word of thanks to every person in my life who has brought me to this point, trusting that all are teachers offering their gifts, that all of us together continue to learn and to grow in and as love, and that our connection with one another fuels our forward motion and therefore brings us to a place of peace and justice. Knowing that as I speak and as I believe it is done in the mind of God, I release my word into law, allowing it to unfold in space and time, here and now, as God, as good, always and in all ways. And so it is. All right, I invite you to join me in our affirmation. You may repeat after me. Today, I let love lead. I let myself feel what I feel, and again, I let love lead. In love, there is room for all of me, and so it is. So let me tell you what's happening at Claremont Center. First of all, we have a winner for our 50-50 raffle drawing. Thank you to everyone who played along. Your contributions gave us $800, over $800 to the center, and our winner of the drawing is Diane Clemens. So yay, Diane. I know she was very, very excited, and so are we. So thank you all for playing along. And do watch our announcements for additional things to participate in. The board has been meeting, and we're talking about ways to stay engaged before we meet again. Now, I know that meeting in person is on everyone's mind. Officially, the state health department has declared that gatherings that abide by the health restrictions, masks and distancing and hand sanitizer and so forth, that it is now possible. The board met last week, and we are discussing and planning how we might do this safely for our community. So they are working very hard on assessing all of the information that we have at the moment, keeping up with new updates, because as you know, this is a moving target. In my note last week, I mentioned it's like a dance. You have to not run into the other dancers, and while you're deciding how to keep moving around the floor. So we're doing all of that, and we're looking at what it would take to make our sanctuary and our rental space people ready under the current circumstances. So we do not have a date yet, but we are looking to bring everyone back together in ways that allow you to feel safe and to be comfortable. We understand, too, that not everyone will want to come back right away. You all have your own health status or reasons for being extra careful. Maybe you have elderly parents living with you and you're going to be extra cautious. We totally understand that. Our intention is to continue with all of our online activities as well as services in person when we get to that point. What that means, though, is that when we do come back together, we're going to want to do a few things, and one of the things the board's talking about is how to upgrade a video system so that we might maybe do away with bulletins and have things up on the wall, or a camera that allows us to videotape the service, something similar to this, so that we have the sound quality and the experience that you want, even if it's taking place in our sanctuary, so that everyone can participate as we move through this time of transition, because we're still in a time of transition. So know that we want everybody to meet. We want it to be safe. We will keep you posted every week with a little something about what kind of progress we're making. We also want to hear from you. So if you have ideas or concerns, please let us know. You can call the office, you can email us, you can call me or text me, or talk to your board members. We would love to have your input on how best to do this for our community. And like I said, until we meet again, we will find more ways for us to play together and get through this time apart. We were talking maybe about a parking lot picnic or a little online bingo. I know there's some bingo fiends out there. So we'll let you know what we come up with, and we'll make sure that we have a good time. In the meantime, don't forget, Wednesday nights we have our gateway service. Thursday nights we have happy hour. And as always, remember, you are loved.